Hello everyone, in this video I'll be showing you a star singing, blade singing wizard multi-class with the Circle of Stars Druid in Baldur's Gate 3's patch 8. This gets 2 attacks and a bonus action alongside the dragon form, which gives us a bonus to our constitution saving throws so we can hold our concentrations much more easily. This is a very fun multi-class and we're showing you how to do it with 2 variations if you want something a little different. I think that it's best to start with a wizard because 1, you get Booming Blade, which is awesome, and then when we go into our Blade Song, we're actually pretty powerful. And you also get all the versatility of being a wizard, so we're going to take Bone Chill to stop targets from receiving healing, and the Ray of Frost to reduce targets' movement speed. For our spells, I always go with the classic Magic Missile and Shield spell combination, but I also like Thunder Wave for the easy pushback, Grease, obviously nice crowd control, Find Familiar, and Long Strider. Now our ability scores are going to be a little bit challenging because this is multi-attribute dependent. However, there's pieces of gear that we can help out with this because there's an intelligence circlet. I don't recommend using that one for this build. It'll set your intelligence to 17, so you could use it. There's the dexterity gauntlets, which set your dexterity to 18, which I think is the best method here, so you can use those. And then late game, there's also the Constitution Amulet. We do have to dump one of our stats, so one of these 3, or you can just go with no wisdom, as mostly our spellcasting comes from intelligence. So depends how you want to build that. If you got the Constitution Amulet, you can put all those points into your wisdom there, and we'll roll with something like this. And otherwise, you would take the dexterity gauntlets and take your dexterity and put it into your wisdom, depending on which items that you're using. However, this is actually a worthwhile combination because these 2 classes go together actually quite well. We will also be able to scribe spells like Chain Lightning, Dethrone, and the Silver Steely, which gives us the Diva spell. So you can get a ton of level 6 spells from this as well, which makes it awesome. We're going to take subclass, obviously level 2, the Blade Singing Wizard. This gives us Blade Song, adding a proficiency bonus to armor class and movement speed increases 3 meters. And we get a proficiency bonus added to our constitution saving throws. So we're going to hold our concentrations very well with this. Now for our next leveled spell, Chromatic Orb or Ice Knife, if you get silence, can work well. We need to pick a Blade Singing Wizard weapon. This just gives you a weapon, so you can pick whatever. We're going to be using a couple different weapons here in this build. At level 3, we get ourselves level 2 spells here. I think Hold Person and Shadow Blade are our 2 best choices. Shadow Blade, obviously very strong with patch 8 dropping. It's a new spell. And these 2 go together very well because we got Hold Person, won't break our concentration, and Shadow Blade, 1 shot basically. So for our prepared spells, we can add those into the mix and then go with something like this, or even adding in your Long Strider, depending on what you prefer. And at level 3 or 4 here, we get ourselves our first feat. We also get to take a cantrip here, so you can go with like Toll the Dead, or even Shocking Grasp if you need to get away from a target. For our level 2 spells, Misty Step, a very powerful one, and Mirror Image is also quite nice, giving us a +9 to our armor class, and every time we get hit, we'd reduce that by 1. I also am a big fan of Scorching Ray because this upcasts very well. So we'll go with this for our spells. We'll take Misty Step for survivability's sake, and then you could even go with the Scorching Ray if you wanted to there. For our feat, we're going to go with an increase to our intelligence here. As our main spellcasting modifier, we're going to be doing a lot with it. At level 5 here, we get to take another choice in spell. We got like Lightning Bolt there, which is a good choice. Fireball, Counter Spell, which is really nice in this because we can use a weapon that gives us an extra reaction to use against Counter Spell. I'm just a huge fan of Lightning and Fireball. It's 2 of the best damaging spells. Now we want to stick with the wizard till we get to level 6 here. This gives us an extra attack. And what's nice about that is then we can start to do some actual melee damage with our Shadow Blade. So we'll take our counter spell there, and Glyph of Warding or Haste are 2 other very powerful spells. I typically have a Sorcerer that'll twin this to myself, but we also have a good ability to hold concentration, so you could use that. Glyph of Warding gives us a bit of a ranged option there, so we'll go with that. And add in counter spell. Now this is where we can break off and add in the Druid, because we already got our action, 2 attacks. Now setting in the Star Druid is really good. Shillelagh doesn't really work with this. It does end up making our spellcasting modifier be used for attack rolls. However, if we only got specific weapons we can use while blade singing. So we'll take our Thorn Whip cantrip, and then you could take like Guidance for the boost or even Resistance. And for the prepared spells, we're going to go with something like Create Water can be really good. Healing Word to give us ourselves a healing spell. Basically anything we can't learn from a wizard is what you want to take here. So we'll go with the healing spells. We can swap these off at higher levels. And then we're going to go with our Circle of the Stars here, which gives us the Starry form. This gives us the Archer, the Dragon, and the Chalice. So with the Archer, we can cast Luminous Arrow as a bonus action. With the Starry form Dragon, we get a bonus action, Dazzling Breath. And whenever you make a saving throw to hold concentration on a spell, a result of a 9 or lower is considered a 10. This is actually very high value for only 2 levels in the Druid. and we could take the rest of the levels in the wizard. However, there's a few ways we can go about this. We can do 2 levels druid, 10 levels of wizard. This gives us the Song of Defense for the wizard, which allows you to take a spell slot, expend it, and then you get 5 times that spell slot level of reduction in damage from an attack. It's kind of nice. So a level 5 spell reduces damage by 25, but that's not really the best usage for a spell slot. We can also do 6/6, which gives us the Cosmic Omen of Weal or Woe, so you can add or subtract from attack rolls, which can protect you and help your shots land. Or we can do 4 levels of druid and 8 levels of wizard, giving us 3 feats. And then if you didn't use the Constitution Amulet, you could take Warcaster. So we got a few really good options here. Starry Form Druid or Starry Form Dragon at level 2 is incredible value. So we're gonna go with that, and we'll take a Long Strider here since we took that off of our wizard. We can always prepare our druid spells at any time. And then now we get ourselves some more powerful spells. So again, we could just go and take the rest of the levels of wizard and take that gives us more spell casting, but I think that's best to take 2 feats. So what we can do is anytime any of these spells we will use wisdom for, so this is something to keep in mind. So we could take like Spike Growth, Hold Person we have from our druids or from our wizard spell list. So we even take something like Moonbeam there, and that works pretty well for spells. Or we can again go back and take the wizard. So for the spells for druid, the best spells would be the crowd control based ones. So you don't even have to go with this extra level of druid. We can again go back and take the wizard here and go all the way with the wizard, because it gives us some really useful things like minor elementals, which you can also learn from scrolls, confusion, ice storm, many other powerful spells. So we're gonna go with that there, and then we'll take another level in the wizard, take ice storm and wall of fire. It's a decent concentration for someone crowd control, and this gives us another feat to improve our wisdom all the way up to 20 there. So for the last few levels, I guess we could go back and take 2 more levels into druid to give ourselves that extra boost, and we could also just go up in the wizard here even further. So then we could take something like Cone of Cold and Hold Monster, 2 very powerful spells, or you can conjure elemental, which is always a nice one to have on your side. And at level 10 here, this is when we get that a Song of Defense, which we can use to keep ourselves alive. And then we can take another cantrip here and some level 5 spells. So we can go ahead and scribe them from scrolls. So we'll take a Hold Monster there, and Dominate Person or Planar Binding are quite nice too if you really like that kind of spell. Cloud Kill is good if you have someone that uses Hero's Feast, because it'll keep you safe from it. So you can take whichever spells there you prefer. And we're going to learn a couple from scrolls, because there's a lot of really good scroll spells for this. So we're going to just adjust some of the spells here, because they do mess up your spells whenever you swap on and off a class. We'll take our minor elementals. We'll take Hold Monster or we have Hold Person there, and then we can go with our Fireball, and we'll take Lightning Bolt, and I guess Counterspell is a good one to have too, so we can take that there. And yeah, that looks pretty good there. You can also add in the Find Familiar or Long Strider if you like. Now for gear, there's a lot of great options, but I think that the Helmet of Arcane Acuity works fantastically well. However, if you have this on someone else, we can go with other options. You do get this around Act 2, so it's pretty good. The Hood of the Weave being another good option too. And honestly, whatever you got best. This is another one, the Diadem of Arcane Synergy, applying Arcane Synergy, which gives you a bonus to your weapon attack rolls whenever you inflict a condition, which works very well here. But yeah, the Helmet of Arcane Acuity works great. Now, the Gloves of the Battle Mage's Power were fixed on patch 8, which does a similar thing whenever you do an attack with a spell or cantrip. This counts as Shadow Blade as well. You gain Arcane Acuity. We can also go, again, as I mentioned, early game, Gloves of Dexterity, you can dump your dex. And then the Helldusk Gloves. If we want the Gloves of Dexterity, it actually puts our armor class up higher, so you could use that for the whole game. But the Helldusk Gloves are nice because they give us a bonus to spell attack rolls, and they deal additional fire damage on our attacks, so that can be really good too. Now, I went with the Ballast Armor. This will give us, if we're using piercing damage, like for the Crimson Mischiefs here, for example, this will give us additional damage because the Aura of Murder. However, if you don't have that, go with your best available late armor, or even clothing, and you can use, like, I guess Mage Armor doesn't fully work right with it, so you can go with, like, Robe of the Wave if you really wanted to. But I think that the best choice would be going with the Ballast Armor here, because it sets up, especially if you're in the melee range, you can set up your bow attackers to give them vulnerability to piercing damage, so it works well on a team. And then the Evasive Shoes, but you can also go with the Boots of Stormy Clamor as we inflict conditions on targets to stack reverberation, so I'll go with that to show it off because it is really strong. Now for weapons, I got Crimson Mischief and the Dolar Amaris here. Whenever we land a critical hit with a weapon or unarmed attack, it deals additional 7 damage, which is doubled because of the piercing damage or psychic damage from Shadow Blade, especially with the Resonant Stone. So what we want to do is we want to learn a couple spells from scrolls, so Chain Lightning being one of them, or Odaluk's Freezing Sphere as well. I really like this one, learn a spell. go into your wizard spell list and take off a spell, put that one on. It's a very powerful spell, so it's a nice one to have in our list, so we'll go with that there. Now what we want to do is summon in our Shadow Blade. There's also another way we can go about doing this, because we can always take the staff of spell power there. This gives us a free cast, and then we can use a free cast to give ourselves a free level 5 or 6 Shadow Blade, which just makes a whole lot of sense here. So we now got that, and then we can add into our offhand a weapon as well. So we got an extra one here. So that's 4d8 plus 8 psychic damage, and then we also have the Dollar Amaris there, which will stack up our critical hits even further. So I'll show you what this looks like in combat. Another really good ring instead of the Killer Sweetheart too is Abandoned Mystic Scoundrel, because that will let us do a hold person as a bonus action as well. So we got other options too on top of that. So it's best to take our Starry Form Dragon early on before we even get into a fight if you know one's approaching. So we'll have this. This gives us the bonus to our saving throws. And then we got our bonus action Dazzling Breath. Well, it doesn't do a lot of damage, just a little bit of a bonus, and you can hit a lot of people with that. Also, if you got different gear that sets up radiating orbs, that can also work well. So something like the Coruscation Ring can also be a pretty good one, as it'll stack up some radiating orbs on the enemies. So you got a few options that are very good. As soon as we get into a fight, we want to get into the Blade Song, because that's going to give us that bonus armor class, which is super useful. So now we're Blade Singing here. And what's also nice, if you play a Drow, you can get Darkness, which actually will empower your Shadow Blade. Whenever you get Shadow, Lately, or Heavily Obscured, you get advantage on attack rolls, which is really nice to have. Now, there's a couple ways we can go about doing this. We can first start by setting up some crowd control with something like a Wall of Fire, as using this will give us a very useful weapon against enemies. So we could go with something like that there. And if we don't get counterspelled, and we did, so that happened. So instead of that, what we'll do is we'll actually just go with a melee attack, or maybe we'll just set it up anyways, because I guess that is the one counterspell we'll likely get hit with. That's a pretty good option for damage, because people are going to continue to walk through it. We're stacking Reverberation, we're stacking, sometimes we'll stack the Radiating Orbs. If we pop out our bow too and turn off dual wielding, that's going to be a good option, because this will make it so we glow as well. And then we also got our bonus action attacks and our bonus action Dazzling Breath, so we can hit an enemy with that there. There's a few of them right here that we could possibly hit, so I'll just try to line that up correctly. Being on the edge of your fire is also kind of nice, because sometimes people will just run into it and stay in it. And there we go, we got our we got that off there, so a couple extra points of damage. Now the Song of Defense can come in handy if we do the 10-2 split, because we can reduce the amount of damage we're going to be taking. Sometimes it's nice to just burn off single level spell slots so that can reduce the amount of damage that we end up taking. Oops. And we're in sort of a pickle here. There's a bunch of enemies all in a straight line, which is always a nice time for a lightning bolt or a fireball, depending on... I always like to look at what can hit the most amount of targets, so that can be pretty effective there. And we can even go with the Odaluk Freezing Sphere and go with the huge area of effect that this one brings. So yeah, we're able to hit every enemy in this range, so we may as well drop this down right here, as that's going to be the most damage. And you can see there, Radiating Orbs for days, took out a ton of targets. And then what we can next go around with is our Booming Blade, so we can go ahead with a melee attack there, taking out that target. Perfect. And then we can always go with another melee attack to follow up with. We don't always have to go with I would also recommend taking up dual wielding too, so that you don't do a offhand attack, as we want to save that for Dazzling Breath. And we can just go ahead again, main hand attack, which is the Shadow Blade, 60 damage. It's hitting really hard, so you can see there, pretty good damage. Now there's water, there's ice, there's everything nice. You got to be mindful where we're going to be standing. We walked right into our Wall of Fire, of course we did. I could have hit with the Dragon Breath without it, so that's further stacking up some Radiating Orbs. Not a bad turn overall. We took out a lot of enemies there. I kind of messed up by putting this Wall of Fire here, because I can't chase them down and use our Blade Singing attacks, but always a good time to drop a Fireball, especially when there's a group of enemies like that there. And the cool thing is you cast that with your weapon, so yeah, I took out a good number of them. And then we can chase them down too. Like you always have the option of just running through your fire anytime to get to the other side, and then going ahead with our Booming Blades, which hit very strong, and actually we're able to take out 2 targets with 1 single attack. So yeah, this actually goes together well. That extra bonus action ability is nice, not a huge sacrifice. And then yeah, you can also do the 6-6 split to get the Owlbear for extra survivability. You'll still be able to scribe level 6 spells, so a lot of good things can come from this. The Dazzling Breath is really powerful, so yeah, it's just a nice way to be able to apply some Radiating Orbs on enemies. You got your Blade Song abilities. There's a lot to love with this class, so let me know your thoughts in the comments. Hit the subscribe button below if you haven't already, and I'll see you all in the next one.